Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Daryl Urbanski, your host as always. And today we are joined by Ethan P. Heisey. Ethan is a CEO, marketer, financial strategist, and speaker. He helps business owners reduce taxes, improve investments, and find hidden financial opportunities. As founder of Exponential Freedom, he connects clients with trusted experts in tax, estate, and business strategy. He built his career around entrepreneurship, leadership, and service. He started young with a clear goal: build his own vision, not someone else's. With a background in finance, public speaking, and ministry leadership, he brings practical insight and strong values to every conversation. He's passionate about growth, meaningful partnerships, and helping others create greater freedom in business and life. I've asked him to join us here today to share his story and insights into navigating business, life, and purpose. So Ethan, thank you so much for joining us today, my friend. How are you?
Amazing. What a intro. I need to just record that and play that every morning to just hype me up.
Good news, this is being recorded. I got a recording for you. I'll send it over.
There we go. I'm just going to have that as, you know how you like manifest in the morning, those other things. Hey, thanks you for doing what you do, by the way. I appreciate you. I've been listening to your podcast. And I'm telling everyone, I'm telling my team, I'm like, guys, you need to learn this. This is important for your life. We're having a great time. So I've got a lot to catch up on, though, because I just found out about you recently.
Thanks, man. Thanks. So, well, let's hop into this. I mean, how did you even get started? Obviously, what you're doing is having a big impact on some of your business owners. I've listened to some of the testimonials on your site. I think it's great. But how did you get into this? Do you come from a family of entrepreneurs? Is this something that, are you just carrying the family torch?
No, my family's always worked in corporate America for the most part. So ever since I was a little kid, I started my first business doing what we all do, starting a landscaping business. And then eventually I got that to where I was probably making as much money as my school teachers, if not more, while I was in middle school and high school, which was funny. And then I got to the point where I was like, well, I don't know even if I want to go to college. Do I need to go to college? I'm making as much as the professors there could be. I don't know what they made exactly, but I have always had an entrepreneur bug because I knew that I was meant for something bigger in life than what corporate America could give. And I just wanted to work hard and see what I could do.
So you started a landscaping company and grew it till you were earning more than your teachers. Break that down a little bit. How did you even pick landscaping? This was something your parents put you up to? Were you just like, I really love cutting grass? Or how did that even happen?
My dad always taught me how to do yard work. So it's just a skill that I learned. I mean, I was out there with a shovel and a hoe and a rake, and I was planting seeds and gardening. I just knew how to do it. So I said, well, what's the next best step? Well, so what I did was I bought some four-wheelers, and because I didn't have a driver's license, I was just in middle school. So I bought a bunch of some four-wheelers. So I had a whole team of just middle school people.
Driving
Just meet a bunch of kids, four-wheelers, we would hook up stuff behind us, the lawnmowers, the weed eaters, and we're just going door to door. I mean, we were probably mowing half the entire neighborhood and going miles on those. And I would get pulled over by cops all the time. Hey, you can't drive those on the road. But we did. We did, and it was a hilarious time.
I can't even get a license. What do you expect me to do? I got a trailer. I got to pull this thing somehow. I love that.
I'll tell you, I was involved in a bunch of war because we were in Texas on the border, almost not quite to the border, but we would have a lot of people that would pop our tires and try to sabotage us because we were cutting into their business, and it was very interesting on certain people that didn't want us in that environment. It was great.
Right. Man, what a crash course. What a crash course into business. So, all right, you grew this, and then what'd you do afterwards? You just stopped mowing lawns? You sold the business? You got into something? It evolved? What happened?
Well, after that, I got rid of it. I didn't know you could sell a business. I probably could have made decent money for a 18-year-old, but I didn't. I just got rid of it at that point. I gave up my book of business. I just gave it to another person I met at the time. Then I went to college. I was bored. I didn't really care for my classes because I realized that you could just Google everything on the internet I was being taught at that moment. But I went. My dad really wanted me to, and I promised my family that I would go. So I got my degree. I started day trading stocks while I was in college. Did pretty well at that. I started making money by teaching people how to day trade. And then I realized that I could also teach people about finances. So from there, I got into financial planning. And then now I'm into taxes.
Got it. Very interesting. So you had your little landscaping experiment. You go to college. You learn how to day trade. You start teaching other people how to day trade. you get into financial planning. It's just you kind of had that first business and the heavens opened and the pearly gates as well. And money started raining from the heavens. It's been sunshine and rainbows the whole time. Is that the story?
I wish. Business is hard.
Yeah.
One of my, Mark Cuban's business partner, he would always tell me, he's a mentor of mine. He'd always tell me, business is hard, but people make it difficult. I think the number one challenge I find in business is managing people. And business is easy. It's like, I have this value, it costs this. But really, it's more managing people, I think, than anything else. Keeping the employees happy, making sure I'm adding value to them, keeping my promises to them. And I've learned a lot. I think I've learned more about my faith. I've learned more about just hoping things are going to work out, how to manage people. It's a journey. And I think everyone should try something along the lines of serving. If you're not going to be a business owner, try being a server, try being something that's performance based, and you'll learn a lot.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I'm very much, before the call we were talking about when I grew up, that, as someone who was adopted, you never deserve a seat at the table. You have to earn it. So I love that, because everything I do is results based, and it's a different world.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different world. It's a completely different world, and it's very rewarding. So what were some of the biggest challenges that you had to face, and how have you overcome them?
Networking. When you start a business, you don't know people. You don't know people, and the only way to find clients is to spend money that I knew of at the time, and I didn't have money. So I had to be very creative. So I had to learn how to network. That is where our business really got its start from my belief. I'll give you an example of how I can network with people.
Sure. Yeah.
I'll start with the story. So I was in college, my last year of college, and there was a time where I was learning about how to meet other people, because I started my financial planning business in college, and the only people I knew were people that were in college, so they didn't have money. There was nothing I could do to help them grow their investment.
You gotta have some money to do some planning with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I said, okay, I want to do a challenge. I'm going to ask every single person that I know if they're willing to sit down with me for a lunch. And then my last question to them would be, can you introduce me to someone more successful than you? So I committed to that for 365 days. There's days I didn't want to do it, but I forced myself to do it. So here's the result of it. I started out meeting my professors, because that's who I knew. They were the most successful people. They were teaching me. I also had some friends. So eventually I would talk to my friends, I would talk to my professors, and I would say, hey, can you introduce me to someone that's more successful than you? Well, they would. They would give me a connection. And then eventually I was meeting maybe their boss or their boss's boss from there. Then maybe the higher ups, like a VP at their company. And then I would get introduced to CEOs of the company. It was the coolest experiment, because I just kept meeting more successful people. And along the way, I would find clients and then apply what they knew into my business. But here's the crazy part. So I was doing this for multiple, months in a row. And there was one day that I found a guy and I asked him the question. I said, who do you know that's more successful than you? And he sat there, he looked at me, he didn't say anything. It was it was awkward. It was like a 3-minute pause. He says, how about this? I'm going to get back to you, but watch your cell phone from an unknown number. And I said, okay. Well, a few days went by, and all of a sudden I got a unknown number on my cell phone. I picked it up, I answered it, only because he told me to look out for it. Well, I did, and the person on the phone said, please hold for the President of the United States. Yeah. And I said, this got to be a scam. This is a joke. But it was a secretary, and they got on. He said, this was one of the former ones, not the current one. But he said, hey, this is President Jimmy Carter when he was still alive. He was like, hey, I've heard about your experiment, and I love it. We should meet for lunch. And I said, I am open to that. So I drove down there. He had all of his people around him. You ever seen the movies where he's got Secret Service, but they're all reading newspapers? They're all sitting around and reading newspapers. And you go in there, I make a little movement, and all of a sudden these heads pop up over the newspapers to make sure I'm not going to do anything. And so that was a fun time. But the point is, don't be afraid to ask for referrals. Don't be afraid to ask for connections. Life is too short not to meet more people. But the most important thing, apply what they say and do it. If someone's more ahead of you in life, follow their instructions.
That's great advice. That is such great advice, and a good story too. I love that. I love that. I love that. So what do you think are to add on to this, what do you think are some of the most important skills and behaviors for someone to develop?
Listening to what has been successful for others. And the main thing is applying it. How many times have we heard something and then you look back and you haven't actually followed through on what you learned? But the problem in today's economy, I think, isn't necessarily information. You can go on ChatGPT, Gemini, and find as much information as you want. I think the key is deciphering, having that wisdom to figure out what is actually important to do.
Mm,
And I think you
mm.
just need to sit there and say, here's all of my options. I can only do one. What am I going to pour all my resources into that's going to give me the best result, the best ROI, and then go all in. Don't diversify and try to do 20 businesses at the start. It's so you're not going to be a successful one thing.
I love that. Yeah, it's very, I've been thinking that as well from the day one. They used to call it prompt engineering. You know, in the beginning of the day, it was all about the prompt engineering. Well, because you can ask this genie anything you want, but what do you ask it then? It's the same thing Googling these quantum computers. Like, okay, you've got a quantum computer, but what are you going to do with it? And so it's almost the same question, like you're saying about like asking the right questions, having the right focus, the right priorities, and then following through, doing something with it. I think that's a really, really good tip. Where do you see most?
Did you ever ask yourself, what do I want out of life? When's
Yes.
the last time you asked yourself that? Because so many people are just like wandering around
Yeah.
and we're just like aimlessly wandering. We don't actually know. And it's just find a target to hit. That's the
Yeah.
first problem.
Yeah.
Find something that actually gets you excited to wake up out of bed and something you don't even need to drink coffee in the morning to go do. You need to have excitement for otherwise life's boring. Like let's do something great and meaningful that
Yes.
gets us ready to go.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think especially COVID was a major wake-up call for a lot of people because all of a sudden they had to pause for a couple of weeks to a couple of months to whatever. And they're just sitting stuck at home going, what am I doing with my life? Why am I here? And we've seen a resurgence in faith. And because I think a lot of it comes from this, like, why? Like, okay, we're here. Okay, we've got extinction bombs. Okay, I can hop in my car and drive forever. Why am I doing this? Like, why am I doing any of this stuff? Something that my wife and I do on a regular basis, and I do with clients sometimes too, we call it the 15-minute life exercise. It's not mine. It comes from How to Live on 24 Hours a Day by Arnold Bennett, I think is the author. But basically you sit down for 15 minutes and you set a timer and you just write out for 3 minutes your bucket list. All the things that you could check off on a calendar that you think you'd want to achieve in your life. And then the next set, you do another 3 minutes and you know, this list is how I want to spend my life for the next 3 to 5 years. The fuzzy stuff. I want to spend it with my kids. I want to spend it in nature. I want to spend it laughing. I want to spend it for me, I always put down peak mental and physical condition. Like, you know, the fuzzy stuff, make that list. And then the third list, you have to be real with yourself. You have to go as if you were in the doctor's office and the doctor just told you, you've got 3 to 6 months left to live. What do you need to do? And then you make that list. And when you've got your 3 lists, you spend about 9-10 minutes, then you prioritize them, each list individually. So what's the number 1 bucket list item, number 2 bucket list item? You prioritize that list. You prioritize how you want to spend your time in your life. You prioritize what you need to do before you go. And you take the top 3 of all 3 lists and you make a personal mission statement written as if it's true today. And that is like your guiding light. And that's, I think, exactly what you said. So many people, you've got this gift of life, which is a miracle. It's a pure miracle. We don't know how to create life. We can only destroy it. And that's very humbling when you really think about it. Like, oh, I can make a baby. Okay, but can you create consciousness? Can you create, like, we can't, when we don't even understand it. We think we do, but we always find out how little we actually know. And that's very humbling. And so I think that's a really powerful, what you said is really like, why are you here? You have to figure out your big why. You're going to die any day. Something that I've been thinking about a lot, because I read a lot of Stoicism, a lot of like Marcus Aurelius's meditations is always on loop when I'm at the gym and on an audiobook. And something that got me thinking about was some people think we're going to achieve immortality with technology. Some people think that we're reincarnated. Basically, we have an immortal existence. And some people think you have an immortal soul. And all 3 of those, like to your point, all 3 of those are assuming an immortal existence. So on an immortal's timeline, what would be the things that you would value? What would be the trophies you would want to put over your fireplace? And that's exactly what you're saying. You got to find out what fires you up. You're here to live a life, not just get by. And I think that's a really powerful way to live your life. So I think I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, having us know that we're all going to pass away one day sounds morbid, but it gives us urgency that we don't have all the years to live currently with technology. So at some point, we're not going to be here. So why not go all in? Worst case scenario, they're not going to remember us in 200 years when you die. So
Yeah.
let's just
Yeah.
do something. Let's go.
Yeah. And even if someone remembers me when I'm gone, even if I achieve
Mhm.
something and people think I'm great and okay, cool. 5,000 years, no one's going to remember them either. Right. And so it's a really like the finiteness of it. Not everybody woke up this morning. Those of us that are here today are the ones that made it through the filter. Not everybody did last night. And that sense of urgency, I think, is really powerful. It's a quote, every morning in Africa, when the sun comes up, a lion wakes up and it knows it must outrun the slowest gazelle or it's going to starve. Every morning in Africa, when the sun comes up, a gazelle wakes up and it knows it must outrun the fastest lion or it will be killed. So the moral of the story is it doesn't matter if you are a lion or a gazelle. When the sun comes up, you better be running. And that's, it's not running for the sake of being in the hamster wheel. We talked about freedom. Your dog's name's Freedom. Your company's named Freedom. Why? What made you choose that as a name?
First of all, I need to learn more quotes like you. That just makes you cool. I need to be up and up. Well, I love the word freedom. I really do. I've got behind me, it's kind of blurred out, but I've got a sign named Freedom. I just think it's a good word because we have the option to literally do whatever we want. This is the best day and age to do anything. And I think that's what we're suffering about is we have the option to do anything we want. Problem is there's too many options. We can't decide, and everyone has 20 things going on. They're Ubering, maybe they're doing Lyft, maybe they're starting these 23 businesses that they are trying to make some profit on. They can't pick one. You can only be great at one thing. Can't be great at 20 things at the same time. Well, maybe for Elon Musk, I don't know, but for the majority of people, we can't. And you got to have that wisdom to decipher what is going to be right for you to do. But we have the freedom to choose. There was a quote I said once. I can't. Trying to remember what it was. It was, what's interesting? Everything living today has a purpose and it knows what it's supposed to do. So like a lion, you're right, it's going to run as fast as it can to catch the gazelle. A tree is going to grow as tall as it can until it can't anymore. Everything's designed to go to its maximum potential until it can't. Humans, we can choose every day if we're going to wake up and work hard or if we're going to sleep in.
Yeah.
We have the choice. Everything else alive is just doing what it's supposed to do. We need to figure out, what do we actually want?
Yeah. People don't understand the power of that. Well, I had a dog. It died recently, but the dog is only going to do what a dog does, like you said, a handful of things. The shark is only going to do the handful of things a shark does. But as a human, you can just go, I'm going to learn to handstand walk. I'm going to be a ballerina. I'm going to go walk on the moon. I'm going to go touch the bottom of the ocean. Like all of a sudden, you can go do and be something completely different. And that is incredibly powerful, incredibly powerful. So how did you choose to go all in on freedom and helping people achieve freedom?
We wanted to help people achieve the freedom through financial freedom. That's what we thought would be the most powerful. So we chose that. We said, if we can help people in their finances, that alone is probably the most powerful thing. Besides God in your life, besides family, the most important thing is money. If you don't have money, you can't eat food. You can't live in a nice house, shelter over your head. You need some sort of money. So we said, all right, we're going to help people learn how to invest their money, learn how to save on taxes. And that's what we do. Every day we change lives. We help people save money in their pocket, take that money they save and find places to invest it. That's what we chose to do. And we've helped thousands of clients at this point. Yeah. And we're not stopping. We're going to keep going every day.
So what are some of the biggest mistakes you see people making when people come to you? What are the top 3 to 5 pitfalls that they're falling into?
My average client is going to make about $4K a year or more, or that's the minimum, to work with us. So average client could be more than that, but the minimum to work with is $400K. What I find is the average person is going to go to a financial advisor first, at least in the US, that's what the majority of people do, is go to the financial advisor and they say, how do I grow my money? And then they're going to tell you, let's go put it into a mutual fund or a stock. And they're going to prove to you how they can make 1 or 2% more than the market, which is good, which you can do. Compoundingly over time, maybe they do it. Now, net their fees, who knows what it actually is going to come out to. What does Ray Dalio and Warren Buffett say? Just put it in the S&P 500 and you can that's probably good for the average person because there's no cost to it, relatively low cost. But what I'll tell you this is that's not the way to do well. That's not the way to grow wealth. What you should do first is pay no tax. Try to take, because if let's say you're making $400K a year and you're paying $100,000 in taxes, let's say we can wipe out your tax bill by 100%. In theory, let's say we could. Well, now that 100,000 taxes, you just made back 100K in tax.
Huge, yeah.
Now let's take that 100,000 and figure out to invest it. If we went to the financial advisor first and said, let's figure out how to grow our money, you didn't have any money yet.
Yeah.
Let's go free up cash you didn't have yet and then invest. So it's all about order of operations. What do you do first is how you determine your wealth,
Right.
Which means save the money on taxes. We take that, go put it into places that grow tax-free, wipes out capital gains. Then the third step is let's figure out a strategy on how to grow it. Just don't do it out of order. Do it in order. Follow what the most successful people have done. Like we're applying their success to your life, and you'll double your net worth in 3 years doing that structure versus every 7 years, because you're freeing up capital to invest where the ordinary person's saving money after taxes and they're doubling their net worth in every 7 years. Compoundingly, the market might do that if you're just getting the average return. That's what about the average person would do in the market. So we're just speeding up the timelines.
As you know, and a lot of my listeners know, I'm a Canadian, but I'm not in Canada. And a part of why I'm not in Canada is because if you're a top income earner in Canada, you're going to pay 36% federal income tax, 16% provincial income tax. And then when you go shopping and you go anywhere, restaurant, gas, grocery store, you're just buying a trinket, you're buying shirts, you're going on a ski trip, you're going to pay a 15% sales tax on everything you buy. So at this point, you start to realize, oh, I'm livestock. I'm just a tax income producing, like a farmer, a potato farmer farms potatoes, farmer has an apple orchard. Yeah, ranchers got cattle, governments have people, and the Canadian government is squeezing I'm not going to say it to keep this, but so you say pay no tax. And when I was a teen, I lived on the West Coast. I hitchhiked across Canada 6 times. I lived on the West Coast. And I remember this guy was sitting on the street corner handing out these little booklets he made, like 40 pages, that said submission, application, and registration means bend over, drop them, and don't expect lube. And it was about how, and he was one of these sort of sovereign citizen kind of people, but his story was about his wife, and she'd had a child before they met, and some girl that she had a vendetta with in high school got into, was in foster care, and basically used the power of the government to mess with her and her life and use those instruments. But you're talking about paying no tax. So I mean, I'm sure people would love to not pay any tax and not go to jail. So can you speak to that a little bit? Like there's people that probably heard that are like paying no tax, like no tax. What would you say?
Well, I can't speak to Canadians because most of I'm in America and I know a lot of what we do here, United States. To pay no tax is what the government wants you to do. They want you to pay as low tax if you follow their guideline.
If you can, like 10,000.
Pay the tax. And I'll be very clear if anyone's cutting up these videos because they like to do that on the internet. Here is my disclaimer. Yes, pay your tax if you owe it, but our goal is to not have to owe the tax. Disclaimer there, and do it within the legality of the government.
Sure.
Of what we say there. So what we do with our clients is we sit down with them in the beginning of the year and build a strategy. And this probably could apply to anyone living in any country, is focus on your team around you. Who's in your corner helping you? This sounds rude, but I'm going to say it. Most people are taking financial advice from their family members that don't know anything about money. You might say, hey, Dad, how can I invest my money more properly? Well, he's a plumber and he doesn't know how to tell you, but he's going to tell you what would work for him, but it still may not be the best advice. So find someone who actually knows and has a good track record of it. So build a team. Here's an example of some people you'll need around you. Number 1, a CPA, someone who knows taxes, whatever they call them in other countries, an accountant, a lawyer. You'll want a lawyer, especially business owners. You're going to need a lawyer anyways. You're going to also need a financial advisor who knows how to invest money. You're going to need a estate planner. When you pass away, what's going to happen to all your money? And perhaps a business consultant, someone who's going to tell you about how to do business. The point is form an A team that you can take any problem to and they're going to solve it for you. Have them listed down, your top 10 people, the smartest people around you, and ask them questions on how they would do things. Because the problem is if you only go to one person for advice, they're not going to be They'll be well-rounded, but they won't know everything. You go to your accountant, he's going to tell you, hey, if right now, if you were to put money into this 401k, you're going to get a deduction, which is cool, and you will. But then your financial advisor might say, no, don't do that yet because it's not the right time to purchase the stock. You're buying at the wrong time. You want them to talk to each other. So the best thing, if you can do, put your team, have a quarterly meeting or every 6 months, say, hey, can I invite all of you to a meeting? And I'm just going to give you my problem and try to figure out and have everyone a turn to speak their view on how they would solve it. And then to be fair to them, see if they have an issue that they could spit out and then the team solved it too. Just build a little unit for yourself. You'll go so far. It's incredible.
Oh, you just described building your own personal mastermind, essentially, which is really powerful because that's the power of collective thought. They say that like after, if someone gets divorced, there's a period where they feel like they've got extra brain fog, but fog, not frog. But what they've actually discovered is that there becomes a shared memory. Your wife remembers some things and you remember other things, and collectively there's this social fluidity where the knowledge between the two of you just flows a certain way. You get really comfortable and your neural networks actually wire together. So you store things in her brain and she becomes like almost like your computer in a hard drive. And then if you become disconnected, you lose that. And that's a really powerful thing to have. Like we just said earlier, that the quality of the questions you ask is going to determine the results that you get in life.
I like that. The quality of the questions. They just say there's no dumb questions, but I think you could ask better questions than some questions for sure.
Yeah. What's the joke? There's no stupid questions, just stupid people who ask questions. But it's like a joke. Jim Rohn always said,
true. You need to define, what you're looking for, because you could say, I want something to drink, and they could give you alcohol, they could give you juice, they could give you soda, but it's like, okay, define what you want. Do I want lemonade? Do I want something, and how sweet do I want it? And it applies to your business. What am I looking for? The right question will help you define what you're actually going to get based off of what you want.
Yeah. Even one of the things that was a breakthrough for me in the early days of these AI tools that came out was a friend of mine sat me down and showed me how he was using it. And most people will go to like ChatGPT and they'll be like, I need a recipe for whatever. And by the way, I've got these dietary requirements. It gives a result. They go, oh, okay. And they take it. But, some of the best teachers, some of the best managers, bosses, role models, they have really high levels of expectation. I remember hearing about a story of some guy I forget who it was, but he's a very famous sales copywriter. And he said when he was just a copy cub, he was given this campaign to work on. And he worked on it, sent it in, the boss said, nope, do it again. Nope, do it again. Nope, do it again. And he did this to him like 12 times. He came and said, listen, there's nothing more I can do to this. And the guy said, okay, now I'll read it. And so he had sent it back 12 times. And it wasn't until the guy was like pissed off and frustrated and like talking back to his boss, like, bro, I just can't make you happy. Like, what do you want? This is the best I can do. He's like, okay, now I'll look at it. And just that quality of what you're asking for and what you accept, right? In martial arts, I remember we learned in competition was you don't rise to the level of your expectations. You actually fall to the level of your training. And that's what you're saying, is to build a network and a team of shared knowledge and experience. So that way, good times and bad. Good times, you hope everything's going to go well. But bad times, you've got this bedrock of knowledge and experience to survive those. That's going to see you through. And I almost think that reduced risk is what makes it even more valuable. Like upside's great. Everybody wants the upside. But the number one rule is don't lose your money. Like don't right? If you could grow your money at any value, at any percentage, without any risk of loss, it's going to grow. Like it's just going to keep growing and it's going to go faster.
You're right. It definitely is important to, like you said, you're going to fall to the level of your training. How often are you investing in yourself to learn, to grow? And we talked at the beginning of this podcast, what are we learning about on our businesses? Well, as a leader, the business is only going to grow as fast as I can grow, period. How much am I pouring into my mentors? We've spent, just me personally, probably almost, 6 figures in just mentors this year to learn, to figure out what I can do better. And sometimes people think that's ridiculous. But what I found is there's an ROI to that, because they're going to tell me something I can learn to help not only my business, but my family life. I can apply that to my family. There's so many mentors. We're always talking about money mentors, but there's a lot of mentors you can take. If you're Christian, go to your pastor. If you're trying to learn how to, work better with your wife, go to a counselor. Just find someone who's a step ahead of you and just ask them. Have a well-rounded life.
Yeah. Where do you see things going right now? Obviously, you've got, that's what you do, is put these teams together for people, and you've probably got your own team. And obviously, there's a lot happening in the world geopolitically. There's a lot happening technologically. There's a lot happening economically. What are you keeping your fingers on the pulse for? Of like, what do you see 3, 5, 10 years from now that you think people should be paying attention to?
Probably what everyone's saying is AI. We're working on a lot of AI right now for our company, and we're probably going to sell that. We got some artificial intelligence that I believe is going to wipe out a lot of competitors. I mean, think about a platform that you could just type in and say, my name is George, I'm 35, I make this amount of money as a business owner, save me on tax. Boom. And then our AI comes back to you like a human being would, and it's going to tell you, just do this, boom, and you're going to wipe down your taxes. Artificial intelligence, I don't have to pay that employee. It's going to do everything for me. It's nice. It's blowing my mind what you can do with AI and how fast it's advancing. So I think that is where we should be focusing our time. It's probably oversaturated because everyone is going into it, but I think if you can catch the right wave, you're going to make some good money.
So let's say we wave a magic wand and everyone's adopted AI, and there's, like you said, they found their little niche. What becomes important when you've got AI that can do that? When your AI can do that and it's code that can be copy pasted, what are you going to be doing to maintain value?
What am I doing? And that's such a good thought. What are we going to do with our lives when AI can do everything for us?
Yeah.
Didn't Elon Musk recently tell us that he doesn't think people are going to be working in the next 10 years?
You brought it up. We've been saying that forever. When like there used to be a job called calculator. You would go to a company and you would do math all day. You were a calculator. What do you do for work? Oh, I'm a calculator. In fact, there's a movie about this team of calculators that helped with the moon mission, because they did all the math to send people to the moon and equipment out in outer space. Those were calculators. There was no calculator that you could use. And then it's like, oh, well, we're not going to need people to do math anymore. And then farmers, oh, we got tractors, we're not going to need farmers anymore. And then, oh, we got spreadsheets, we're not going to need accountants anymore. And oh, we got QuickBooks, we're not going to need a CPA anymore, right? So my personal thought and belief on this is that there's a spark inside of us, divine spark inside of us. And that the bus, we can have a self-driving bus, but it's never going to pick its own destination. It's never going to have its own reasons for going anywhere. It's never going to do any of that. But sure, we'll automate a ton of stuff, and hopefully it becomes an age of abundance. That's, I asked you the question and you kind of put the question back out there. I think it becomes down to relationships, like you're talking about, like networking people, and still finding out there's going to be new problems. Every time we solve a problem, there's always a new problem created. So I think it's going to be about relationships, experiences, judgment. Some people, I think it's fractal. I think the universe is very fractal. If you need proof of that, you just have to look at how people come out of other people. The universe is very fractal. So I think it'll be echoes of a different sort, but I don't personally don't buy into we're going to create a new sentient life. Like I just don't think we're going to do, because we don't even understand consciousness now, and I've dug into the research, and it's an oversimplification, but in a lot of ways, when you go to Google and you type in a sentence and it tries to guess what your finishing is what the end of your sentence is going to be, something like 40% of all Google searches were never done before. And so they're trying to predict what you're going to search. And when it recommends that below, that's what it's guessing. And now that's what LLMs are essentially. But instead of just like a sentence, you can put in 5,000 words. And it'll go, oh, well, if they're putting that, this is most likely the answer based off of these 7 billion websites and books and whatever that I've read. I just don't. So it's going to be.
There's a lot of room for improvement for sure. Yeah, it is. It was just an interesting statement when he said that people won't have to work. I think we're all meant to work. We all have a desire to be doing something with our time.
Yes.
So you're probably right.
Yes. Actually, there's a great quote. I love this quote. Let me see if I can pull it up quickly, but it's James Michener, I think it is. He goes, "The master in the art of living makes little distinction between his work and his play, his labor and his leisure, his mind and his body, his information and his recreation, his love and his religion. He hardly knows which is which. He simply pursues his vision of excellence at whatever he does, leaving others to decide whether he is working or playing. To him, he's always doing both." And when you say that, like Elon says that no one's going to be working, well, does that just mean that we have more time to pursue our personal interests? Does it mean that the people who have destructive inclinations, it's like money. They say, money doesn't change who you are. It just accelerates and amplifies it. If you're a jerk and you have a lot of money, you're going to be a really big jerk, and you're going to be a jerk to a lot of people. And if you're a great person, I don't know. That's, I guess, kind of a good maybe analogy to what I think the future is. If I give you an everything tool that can do anything and everything for you, it kind of comes back down to what you said, like God, family, and then money. But that's like what you're doing there's two ways people tend to make money. One is through service and one is through extraction. We've seen this. The food pyramid just flipped 180 degrees. It just did a complete 180 flip, which means that for 60 years, it was institutionalized to lead everybody through military rations, food programs, and recommended government guidelines towards illness, sickness, disease, and death, because it's very profitable. But then you've got service. You've got companies that do amazing good in the world, and they profit wildly from it. So, it's
somehow human beings have survived the last thousands of years. Yeah. So we're here.
We're here
with the food pyramid upside down, on the side, wherever the food pyramid is landing at that time.
Well, I think it just means we're hard to kill.
Yeah.
We're hard to kill. We're resilient.
Absolutely.
So how do you see your industry changing? Like you said, you're leaning into AI tools. Do you think it's going to wipe out a lot of people? So what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's going to come down to taking jobs away that perhaps are not as needed. As we know, like technology usually is going to replace the most simplest of people's jobs, and then over time it could be more complicated jobs, as history has shown. So as far as we're alive, I would expect that I'm still going to be doing what I do, helping people on tax. And perhaps who knows how long we'll be doing that for. And then maybe it just turns that I'm just doing podcasts every single day, being the face. If AI can do everything for me, but I don't know. That's why I've got my software engineers and I hired people that are smarter than me that can help me see the trends. And I'm going to try to catch those trends before they leave without me. And I just got to stay relevant. I don't want to be the next blockbuster being taken over by Netflix.
Well, and to speak to that, there's very much an anti-tax sentiment happening because people are unhappy with how money's being spent. What's happening with taxes? Because, I don't know how, again, I'm not in America, but they just hired something like 40,000 new IRS agents to go chase everyone down. And now Social Security is not taxed or some announcement like that. But then also you've got former Congress people, promoting people that are like, it's voluntary to pay tax. Like what's happening right now? What's going on, Ethan? What can you break this down for the layperson? Like
Yeah. Well, it's not voluntary. You got to pay. And, you do have people. I ran into a guy the other day. He was saying that I don't pay taxes. If they ever find out about it, I'll just pay my penalty and I just won't keep paying. And I was like, well, that's interesting. I don't believe in that. I believe you should pay a little bit of tax because my roads need to be done. My school systems, I care about. I want a military to protect me. So I believe you should pay a little bit of tax. But I don't think you need to fund society.
Yeah.
I think there is a limit there. So we do our best to stay within always the law.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not asking about that. I'm just saying, where do you think things are headed? Because now they're giving tax relief to some, but then they're hiring more IRS agents to do better kind of follow-up. Canada, just like the US, is trying to pass or did pass some law recently. Like if I'm American, even though I go abroad, I still got to pay my tax to the IRS. Like even though in a lot of countries, when you're not a tax resident in that country, if you live somewhere else, you pay tax to wherever you're living. But in the United States, doesn't matter where you go, you are paying for life. They will hunt you down and find you in a hut in Papua New Guinea and be like, hey, pay up. So is there like a trend? Are things moving a certain way? Is it expanding? Like the amount of tax people are taking? Like what are some of the insights on what's happening?
Yeah, well, for what we're seeing is that the tax laws are great. They're more favorable than ever. There's more opportunities that you can do for yourself. I mean, you got the big beautiful bill that just came out with Trump, and they've increased the amount you can deduct for bonus depreciation when you purchase real estate or certain assets on your business. There's more taxes. So what we find is people are paying less tax if you know how to take advantage of the code. So things are great right now. We have more opportunities, ways to reduce our tax bill within the code than within prior administration.
And what about currency? Like when you're helping people, they're saving on taxes, is everything like, because that's something that's a concern as well, right? Is the strength of everyone's currency. Is that part of the strategy? Like, how does that fit into the big scheme? I mean, maybe it's a personal, individualized issue, but I'm just curious your thoughts on that.
I don't really know. You're talking about currency of USD versus the Indian rupee, or
Yeah, like that's exactly it. When you're investing, like you said, first pay no tax or reduce your tax legally to pay as little as like play the game well, pay your tax, but play the game well.
Yeah.
Just again, disclaimer, if anyone's trying to take this out of context, but then find ways to invest it in tax-free investments. And then like I said, is there a play on that? Is that something as well? Like the Panama
Yeah, I mean,
Papers. Oh, sorry.
I don't really know about the currency exchanges. I'm not really in that market, but there are certain ways. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll find ways to grow our money tax-free currency. We're going to invest into projects like private equity, private credit, real estate funds, things that can grow our money. That's our focus.
Okay.
We'll leverage codes to then apply that to the appreciation of our money so we don't pay tax on the growth of it as well. All right, is our goal.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. You made an interesting point. I agree that some things you need to pay tax for. When I was living in Japan, I was kind of shocked when you move in most places, if you're going to rent, you might pay first and last in a security deposit. So say 3 months of rent. And in Japan, you actually pay 5 months of rent when you move in. And I was kind of surprised to hear that. And I'm like, well, what's the extra 2 months? And they say, oh, it's key money. That's what we translate it to English to say. And it comes from the days of the samurai, because you have all these different factions and somebody has to fight the barbarian, like has to protect you at the gate from the barbarian horde. So when you move from one community to another, you would give a gift to the soldiers that were risking their lives to keep your business and your family safe at night while you slept and during the day.
Interesting.
And so this was like a gift of key money. Like, we're moving into your little fortress. Thank you for risking your life. And that, now my landlord in Japan wasn't going to risk his life for me in any way, shape, or form, but they still collect the money. But it's an interesting point. I don't know. Like I said, things are fractal. History rhymes, doesn't necessarily repeat. It's going to be an interesting 10. I don't know what to say. I don't know if I have a statement out of that, but you just led me to that thought, because you were like, well, I want to pay for a military to keep my family safe and roads. It's just tough, because the most inefficient incentive model that I'm really aware of is someone spending someone else's money on things they're not going to use for someone else that they don't really know, or maybe are very far removed from. That's just a really, like, you're never going to get hyper efficiency out of that. But I guess it's a necessary evil. I don't know. Anyways, sorry for the tangent there. And that, Ethan, this has been a great conversation. I've got a couple pages of notes here. Is there anything I haven't asked you about that I should have asked you about?
Man, that's a tough question. What haven't someone asked? No, I think you asked some amazing questions. I just want to encourage people that if there's an idea in your head that you haven't done before, do it. You only have a limited amount of time left in your life, so go out and do it. If you're listening, this is your encouragement to do it. Have courage. Don't doubt. Have the faith. Try. Because worst case scenario is you'll be back in the same place as you are today. So that's what I want to share.
And if people want to reach out, if they want to get your help, if they want to continue the conversation, what are some of the best ways for them to get in touch?
If anyone, all right, don't share this with anybody here or beyond this podcast, but I'll just do it for your audience. You guys know my minimum, just to talk with me, you have to have a 400K income. If anyone wants, just because they listened here, free of charge, anyone that listens to this podcast, no matter who you are, feel free to connect on my website. And I'll sit down with you for some time. We can just brainstorm some ideas on either how to make some money, reduce your tax bill, whatever you want. Limited offer. I probably won't take it on for very long. But it's an offer for you guys. My website is www.theexponentialfreedom.com. Don't forget the. We thought it'd be fun to have the in there, just like you guys hear of the Ohio State University. So theexponentialfreedom.com.
So guys, if you want to learn more, if you want to talk about how to build the team or have Ethan build your team for you, if you want to understand ways that you can save on taxes, which is just free money, he's right. It's one of the biggest ways to boost your income and just create a budget to invest. A lot of people are living on what they've got. And if you could cut your tax bill even by half, you can free up a significant amount of money that you can then invest in other things. So most of the time, these types of experts pay for themselves. So go check out theexponentialfreedom.com, TheExponetial freedom.com. Ethan, thanks so much for joining us today, knowing you have your own direct reports, your own community, your own family. Thank you for coming and sharing with all of us so we could all be better.
Thank you for having me. It's been a good time.